The Unfiltered by Jade.
Jade.
Welcome to The Unfiltered by Jade, where we get out of the box and dive into topics that are sidelined. I look forward to entertain, educate, and inspire. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, donate, and make everybody know about this.
Beats by RB Records.
Shopping assistance, your style, your budget. Our services include online and local shopping for individuals and businesses, personal shopping, purchasing of company and office supplies, importing and exporting small packages across Jamaica and worldwide, and helping you find unique gifts and items for all events and occasions. Contact us at 876-919-5195 or shoppingassistance2015@gmail.com. Shopping Assistance, your style, your budget.
Welcome back to The Unfiltered by Jade. Today we have with us here again Laurie Teixeira, and we had her before, and we were actually speaking about trauma. So today we're gonna speak about phobia, and I'm looking forward to it. So before we even go into it, so Laurie is a author, a licensed clinical social work therapist specializing in treating PSD, anxiety, phobia, and depressive disorders, and I'm sure other things. Yeah, so I'm interested to talk about this today. So good morning again, Laurie.
Oh, good morning, Jade. How are you?
I'm doing great, and how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so what is phobia?
Phobia. So phobia is a persistent fear that a person will have related to a situation, maybe an activity that really causes them to try and avoid it at all costs. So for instance, one that's kind of easy is a lot of people have fear sometimes of spiders, right? So
Yes.
If you see a spider on a wall, you try and walk as far away from that wall as possible to go around it, to not walk right by it, just in case it may jump at you.
Just in case.
Right? I do that all the time, just in case. Because some spiders jump. So just in case, I don't want to touch my body. If it's over there, I am good. But just in case.
Oh man, it almost sounds like listen to me.
Right? There you go, right? So it's like, yeah. So until I get around it and buy it, I'm watching it. No matter how big it is. Well, if it's really big, I'm not going that way. But if it's tiny,
Oh my God. What are some types of phobias that we have?
So some types of phobias that people can kind of identify with is sort of the more social ones, maybe public speaking. When you have to get up in front of an audience or a classroom, a lot of people can relate to having anxiety and worries about getting up and speaking and either saying the wrong thing or words not coming out of your mouth or just looking really foolish. So that's kind of a really big common one that people may have. Others can be around meeting new people, going into unknown situations that you are unfamiliar with that can cause a lot of stress. So it really can be social phobias and activities kind of tend to be some of the bigger ones. And then the other ones, sort of like spiders and other things, can be other ones that people can really relate to.
So then are phobias preconceived, or are they actually real things?
So I think that they are a perceived fear response to something that is not necessarily happening. It may have already happened before, but it is a fear response sometimes where there is nothing to be fearful of in that moment. So if I was walk to my porch and there's usually a spider there, then as I walk up to my porch, I'm going to be fearful maybe every day that there's a spider there. So my heart is racing a little bit coming up to my front doorway, whether or not over time there is a spider there. Because it has been, I'm going to be worried all the time that there can be.
Okay. So it's because of something that happened.
It has been.
Why it is that we have the fear.
Yes. So at one time that may have been a real reason to be worried or fearful, but that carries out for some reason. It gets stuck, and it can carry out a longer period of time, sometimes through your lifetime, that you still develop this fear.
Almost sounds like trauma.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Absolutely, right? Absolutely.
yeah, it does. It does. All right, so we can identify that some causes of phobias is trauma related in terms of it already had happened and we're afraid it happens again.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other causes, especially like for persons who are afraid of small circles or small holes?
Mm-hmm.
Or so what causes those?
So sometimes it is a trauma that can be going again all the way back to childhood. There is genetic components to phobias, which again, if it's passed down through generations, we might not really understand what that actually is about. What caused it in one generation and is passed down through others, it may be passed down and can look a little bit different in the next generation or a person from that generation. So where the first one started out with being fearful of I don't know, talking in public, the next generation, that anxiety or that fear comes up, but it may not come up in public speaking. It may show up in avoiding going to crowded places, amusement parks, too many people. Like large crowds may then create the anxiety that for somebody else, it might have been public speaking in another generation. So there's the genetic component that can be passed down and just look different depending on, again, that person and maybe some of their life experiences and what may have triggered the phobia or that anxiety response to come up in the first place.
Okay. How do we differentiate phobias from ordinary fears?
Fear is kind of a normal reaction to a threat. So, where the phobia is a perceived reaction to the threat, I believe it can happen. It's possible that it will happen. So I'm going to avoid it, or it's going to create a physical response in my body that my body is going to react to. Ordinary fear, there is something to be fearful about. I'm smelling smoke in my kitchen and I'm worried that I might have left a pan on and it's
Oh,
fire,
okay,
right?
okay.
That's a normal reaction to something that can happen that can create fear. All right. So let me run in my kitchen and check it out because I smell smoke. Versus a phobia can be, I'm not sure I left my stove on. I left my house. I need to go back to my house to check the stove to make sure I shut it off so that there won't be a fire, right? And then you leave and then you say, oh, did I really turn the stove off? Even though I think I went back.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
turned off
okay.
the stove, I left, but now I'm walking to my car and
And I'm wondering, did I really?
right? I had a client one time that would be the ritual every day. She had to check the stove and then make sure the door was locked. But what would happen is there would be days where she would then get to her car and not believe that she did it. So then she would have to go back into the house, check the stove, check the door, go back out. And sometimes she'd be driving and the need to go back and check again would be so strong that she would have to turn around and go back home and check again.
Oh, man.
Right? So it creates her being late to where she was going. And then the anxiety and the stress of questioning yourself about, I really thought I did it. I checked and I'm trying to tell myself that I did. And I'm imagining it in my head. I can see myself doing it with what I'm wearing today. And I go out, yet I have to go back home because the anxiety that it produces is so strong that until I do it, I cannot relax.
Okay, I get it. I understand it now. What are symptoms of behaviors that indicate phobia? I mean, you gave us some a while ago, but let's use the example of, say, spiders. Let's talk about spiders.
Mm-hmm.
So people can genuinely fear spiders, different from having a phobia of spiders.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the difference, though? Because people normally say if you fear it, sometimes it's a phobia, and sometimes it is not. So really, how do you differentiate whether it's a phobia or not? Could it behave the same way, really?
Mm-hmm. So with the phobia, the intensity of the emotions can be so much stronger. So I know I don't like spiders. So I can walk up to my front porch and look quickly and say, okay, I don't see a spider, I don't see a web, and I come through my front front porch. But kind of if it may be a phobia, I come up and I'm looking and I might see what might appear to look like a web.
Mm.
All right. It could be a web or it could just be the sun shining on something. But that triggers something else in my body that now starts this whole chain reaction. So my breathing starts getting more rapid.
Labored.
Right? Yes. Right. My heart starts pounding a little bit more faster. Right. I could start sweating. So you start to experience these stronger physical symptoms that then says, oh no, I think really there is a spider there. So I'm not going to come and use that door. I may have to go around and use my side door, right?
Okay.
Because it becomes too strong in that moment that I can't do it.
Understood. So, all right. So we, going by that, the next question is, how does it affect people's lives?
So when phobias become really strong, like again, the client that I was working with who would go to her car, drive away, and then have to go back home.
Mm-hmm.
It was greatly affecting her life because she would be late for work. She may be late dropping off her child at daycare, picking up her child from daycare if she felt the need, like, oh my gosh, wait a minute, I need to go and do this. So it would start this kind of chain reaction that she would get in trouble for being late at work. And she's not going to say, well, I had to go back 3 times to check my stove.
Right. Right.
And make sure I lock my door, because it's not something that you want to tell people that you had to go and do.
Right.
So, and then sometimes it will then stop people from going out to different events because they can't feel comfortable because their mind is
always prepared.
Right. Yeah. So that she'd be wondering like, oh, I'm staying here, but I'm not really comfortable staying here. So maybe I just shouldn't go, because then I will know, because I'll be in the house and be able to check. So it really can start limiting sometimes people's activities and what they can do, because the anxiety and the physical symptoms become so strong, to the point where people, get agoraphobic, don't want to leave their home because the world is too dangerous or it's unsafe, or every time I go out, I have these strong reactions. So it can ultimately limit them to the place where they don't even want to leave their home.
Yes, because they don't know what might happen to them when they go outside.
Right. So, so it can be what starts off as, people can joke around and have it be something small, like, and it's not small, because if it's a real fear, it's a perceived fear, it's really strong.
Yes.
But when you look at it like, oh, you're afraid of small spiders, it's like, yeah, because maybe at one point the person could have been bit by a brown recluse spider and, had a severe reaction and went through a lot of treatment for it and pain. And maybe they don't remember it because they were young. They kind of remember being bit by a spider, but maybe not all the medical stuff and the pain that was associated with it. So now they have a lasting fear of spiders. And now it has gone to all spiders instead of just maybe the ones who are poisonous, right? But it's all spiders. And now I can't go near any because I can't trust that I'm not hurt.
Yes.
Right. So the brain will hold on to that, and it will work really hard, just like in trauma, to protect you from whatever it perceives as dangerous.
Yeah.
And if it perceives a spider as dangerous, then and they're all outside, and it's going to present some problems somewhere.
Oh my, how can phobias be prevented?
Can they be prevented? I don't think that they can be prevented. It's more of really understanding that they can come seemingly out of nowhere at some point. But sometimes you can't always identify the connection to why you feel or are having this specific phobia, especially if you can't connect a reason to it. Like you say, I had a spider bite when I was young and it was really bad. Or I was bitten by a dog and it was bad when I was young. So now I really am fearful of dogs, right? It makes sense. But sometimes there are ones that don't make sense. Like, why do I need to have the stove turned off and the door locked and something else? Because it doesn't make sense to me why that occurs.
What happens in the brain during a phobia?
So the brain is always looking and scanning our environment all the time to make sure that we are going to be safe. So during a phobia, or when the anxiety becomes really strong, it will send a false signal that it is needing to protect from something. So whatever the initial connection became, it signals the body over and over when it sees that connection to we got to go on the defensive, or we need to watch out, we need to protect. So it sends the body into the kind of the fight flight response, where it says, "Fix your heart, watch out." It sends adrenaline in your body. It can send the cortisol, all the stress hormones, to really kick in. It can send your blood pressure up. So it can really have all of those symptoms, all the way up to a panic attack, where people are actually feeling that they are having a heart attack. So when people go to the emergency room and say, "I'm having a heart attack because my heart is pounding out of my chest," it's like an elephant sitting on there. There's actual physical pain that the person is feeling, and they go and the tests are run in the emergency room, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with your heart. It's fine. It was a panic attack." And people say, "No, that couldn't be just from something, come out of nowhere for a reason I don't even know. And it feels like a heart attack. You're telling me there's no physical cause. That's all my mind, my brain, my emotions creating this feeling that was so strong. I came to the emergency room, where I don't even like doctors or the emergency room, yet I'm here." So then the fear becomes, I don't want to have another one of those ever, because I don't want to end up in the emergency room wondering if I'm having a heart attack or dying. The intensity of something that I don't necessarily understand.
But then having a fear of going back to the hospital now gives you a fear. So you're constantly in panic because you don't want to be having a fear to be going to the doctor's office. So every time you see something, you're having anxiety about it, which also brings back the fear, which will also take you back to the hospital.
Right. So it can become this really, this cycle that you don't want to have happen, but almost feel like, I don't know how to control this cycle because I don't know always what's going to set it off.
How can this be treated?
It is therapy, because part of it is trying to understand to try and see if a cycle can be pinpointed. Sometimes you can say, "Yes, I'm afraid of dogs because when I was 6, I was bitten by the dog. It was bad. Here's my scar. And therefore I don't trust dogs." So when you kind of know that you can pinpoint what it's related, then there can be some specific techniques that can be done to kind of break the strong emotional connection and fear that, just like in trauma, again, because it was traumatic, to break the fear, so that you can now see, okay, I can hopefully be around dogs because there are many dogs who are friendly and wonderful and great. But when I hear a dog growling or barking a certain way, that's not the dog that I really want to go around.
Right.
But, there are other dogs who don't, and they're just really happy. It gives you more of a choice.
Okay.
Right? Hopefully that's what I always go for, is that you have the choice to be around the dog or not. Not, I cannot do it. There's no way I can do it. Doesn't matter how friendly you tell me this dog is. I see this dog looking 15 people and kissing them and nobody, but it would be different with me. I just can't do it. So that you can have a choice about whether or not you want to do that. But sometimes it is really hard when you don't have an association and it just continues to happen. So sometimes it really is trying to expose the person to what it is they feel brings on the anxiety. Right. So that it can almost desensitize them over time and not have them have such a strong reaction to it.
Okay.
And other times it's medications. Sometimes people need some medications that just take down the anxiety so that it is not feeling as intense. So it can get you through the event. It can get you through the situation. It can get you out of the house for a little bit, feeling calmer.
Right.
So you can get done what you need to get done.
Is this something that people can become addicted to? The medication?
The ones for antidepressants, I mean, to me, I feel like there's always with the side effects and how long you're on it, there's always, again, side effects to know about. So you always want to be educated around what the medication is. What are the side effects? If you stop the medication, do you need to titrate it down slowly, because there can be rebound effects? There can be kind of serious effects of going cold turkey. Can you go cold turkey if you feel like it's okay and not have those side effects? So I don't ever recommend going cold turkey when you're on medicine, but sometimes people do. But it's not going to create adverse effects in the body when you do that. Some medications, they're very short-lived, so you can take like a Xanax or something where it is in the body, calms it, and then it's out of the body. So you take it kind of as needed if something really comes strong. We're in a heightened panic attack, that you can take it, calms the body down, you can start to breathe, you can get control again, and then continue with life. So,
okay, interesting. So I want you to tell us where we can find you.
So you can find me at www.healwithlaurie.com. That is my website.
Mm-hmm.
So you can come ask questions. If you have any concerns or would like to talk about working further on this stuff, you can set up a free 20-minute call just to be able to talk about what's going on and if it can be helpful.
Okay. Understood. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again, Laurie, for being here and speaking to us about phobias.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, and I'm very sure that our listeners also enjoyed this topic, as it's a topic that I think people should understand more, because we don't talk about it much, but it's something that really affects individuals.
Yes, it can affect them, again, low levels to really strong. And I think it's one of those things that everybody can identify with a time in their life where they felt anxiety.
Yes.
Felt it strongly, or in relationship to a situation or an event or a person, whatever that is, animal, whatever, that we can all identify at least some of the emotions that go along with it. And then to imagine that being a part of your life, sometimes every day, throughout the day, is where it's just, when it's interfering that much, please get help. You don't have to live that way. We want everybody to live in peace and be happy.
Yes. And on that note, I want to thank you again for listening to The Unfiltered by Jade. And we'll be back next week, Tuesday. Thank you.